Hey guys, let's get more news about Steelers, but first, don't forget to subscribe and leave your like. Mike Tomlin downplays Russell Wilson's moon ball downfield prowess. Everybody that throws a good deep ball has got air under it. The Pittsburgh Steelers passing game found success with Russell Wilson at quarterback on Sunday. He set a franchise record for the most passing yards in a Steelers debut, in fact. A lot of his success came from his deep ball, which people are calling a moon ball. Yet Steelers head coach Mike Tomlin is not sure how distinctive or special Wilson's signature pass is. "I don't know that it is particularly unique," Tomlin said of Russell Wilson's deep ball, via the Steelers website. "He has arm talent, he has arm strength, he's got ability to change his trajectory. He's got pinpoint accuracy in terms of dropping balls. So he's very talented in that area. I don't know that there's anything going on mechanically different that distinguishes it." According to Pro Football Focus, Russell Wilson only attempted 2 passes of 20-plus air yards against the New York Jets, going 2 of 3 for 81 yards. He also went 3 of 4 on throws between 10 and 19 yards in the air for 68 yards and a touchdown. He faced pressure on 4 of those 7 pass attempts, making his success rate even more impressive. But he also owes a debt of thanks to his receivers, particularly George Pickens, for making plays. And Tomlin believes it is a credit to the way the Jets played them for opening that area of the field. "Sometimes it's just not always him. You guys are pulling from a very small sample size," Tomlin said when asked about Wilson's ability to unlock the deep passing game. "It might just be how the New York Jets chose to play defense. They play a lot of man-to-man. We lined up in some bunches and did some play-action passes, and like Calvin, Austin 3, came free late. Sometimes it's not about us." According to PFF, Justin Fields went 6 of 18 on deep passes, in comparison, for 206 yards. He threw no touchdowns or interceptions, facing 1 drop. In all, he suffered 9 total drops during his 6 games starting, but mostly on short passes. The Steelers didn't drop any passes in Russell Wilson's first game. The Steelers did, however, find success down the field with Russell Wilson. You can even throw a 29-yard defensive pass interference call in there. But ultimately, it takes 3 parties to make a completion: the passer, the catcher, and the defense. For Wilson and the Steelers, the second and third components did their part to enable his success. Some of his deep passes were not his best, though again, they were almost mostly under duress. But they didn't work because of something magical about them, as some want to portray. "I don't know how unique it is. I think everybody that throws a good deep ball has got air under it," Tomlin said, continuing to shoot down the narrative that Russell Wilson has unlocked something mystical down the field. "He is simply good at throwing down the field. If his Steelers teammates talk about moon balls, that's because they haven't had a reliably good downfield passer in a while. They might not remember what it's supposed to look like." 3 receivers Steelers must avoid like the plague at the NFL trade deadline. The NFL trade deadline is coming up, and while we have seen teams begin to ship away players with their eyes on the future, there should be a handful of other names that ultimately get dealt. There is heavy speculation that the Steelers will be buyers at the deadline, and in particular, they may have their eye on some receiver help. While I think an upgrade to the second receiver would be welcomed, some names are being reported that just don't make any sense. Like it or not, this team doesn't look like a Super Bowl contender right now, and just improving the receiver room won't get them there. There isn't a name available that suddenly makes this offense elite. Because of this, I think it isn't wise to dedicate a lot of resources to players who would likely only be around for the remainder of the season before becoming a free agent or a cap casualty because of their contract. There is a fine line of receivers that makes sense for the team. That said, these 3 names that have been speculated on would be mistakes to add. Steelers should avoid Treylon Burks. I really liked Treylon Burks coming out of Arkansas a few seasons ago, but his NFL career hasn't lived up to his college hype. He was supposed to be the next running back in a receiver body, but his lack of athleticism is apparent when matched up against pro players. He can't separate on deep passes and lacks the ability to get significant yards after the catch. I get the appeal of taking a shot on a former first-round pick who still has some time on his rookie deal, but I just don't see the point. He wouldn't improve upon the second receiver spot in any way, so you are looking at a depth player only. Add in his injury and a deal for him makes no sense, even if the compensation was cheap. This also goes for the other struggling young receivers such as Velvis Jones and Jalen Hyatt. Even if they are cheap, they don't move the needle. Steelers should avoid Adam Thielen. Of the three names on this list, I like Adam Thielen the most, and think that if moved, he would have the most success. The simple reason is that, while older, he is a natural route runner who knows how to get open. He doesn't rely on speed to win, so his age shouldn't concern fans as much as others. So why should he be avoided? For starters, injuries have limited him this season, and that is a concern you should have with someone his age. He is also primarily a slot receiver at this point in his career, and that isn't a position that has been heavily used in this offense. Add in the fact that when a slot receiver is out there, it is usually Calvin Austin. I just don't think the fit is right this year even if the asking price is low. Steelers should avoid DeAndre Hopkins. It seems like fans have gravitated toward DeAndre Hopkins as their receiver savior, as he is the last big name left to be targeted. Unfortunately, based on his recent level of play, Hopkins isn't the receiver that he once was. He can still win with his physicality and route running, but his skills are clearly declining. Based on the rumors though, Hopkins will likely fetch the most in terms of draft picks. As stated before, the Steelers aren't in a position to give up significant capital for a rental at receiver in a year when they likely aren't going to compete for a Super Bowl. If the Titans are willing to trade him for pennies on the dollar, this will be another story, but if they want anything significant, the Steelers need to steer clear. Pittsburgh Steelers could look to take a swing at two other star WRs on trade block. After the Pittsburgh Steelers moved to 5-2 on the season with a thrashing over the New York Jets, the need to trade for a wide receiver continues to mount. Fans even tried to recruit Jets wide receiver Mike Williams, who remains on the trade block and is a name that the Steelers could look to acquire. However, before this week's games, a few other wide receivers appear to garner interest from around the NFL, and the Steelers could be in the thick of things. According to Adam Schefter of ESPN, Jets wide receiver Garrett Wilson, who became the WR2 in New York after the Davante Adams trade, was a player that teams called about. They were told the Jets would not trade him, but could that change after their loss to the Steelers? Then, the Los Angeles Rams received multiple calls about wide receiver Cooper Kupp. Kupp is a star who has spent his entire career with the Rams, but sitting at 3-4 in a down NFC West, the Rams are still in the thick of it. They would only trade Kupp if they believed it was time to blow their entire operation up, with Matthew Stafford only getting older. Still, teams have tried to pry Kupp away from them, so it is yet another name to throw into the pile. The Steelers have about 2 weeks to try and make a deal that can upgrade their wide receiver room, but they are far from the only team that needs wide receiver help after injuries ravaged the position in Week 7. And you fan? What do you think of the situation of Cooper Kupp? Leave your opinion in the comments.